Hi, everyone. It's Warren Berger. I'm the founder of Luminary Financial Advisors, and thank you for joining me for my weekly retirement workshop. Uh, I'm really happy to have you here. What we're trying to do is every week we're going to present a different financial topic that might affect your retirement plans. And hopefully, you can take from it a bit of education that you can follow in your own financial wellness. Let's get started with our topic for today. Today, we're going to be talking about taking Social Security early. At 62 years old, we all have to make a pretty big decision in our lives about whether or not we want to start taking Social Security. And essentially, what we're trying to decide is whether or not we're, when we think that we're going to be, passing on in this life, and how worth it is it for us to start taking Social Security as opposed to waiting for a larger amount later. So I just want to go over today some of the implications of that and how that may affect your retirement. First thing I have to start with, my legalists always tell me that I have to start with a disclaimer. And that's just really to let you know that this is not legal or financial or accounting advice. This is really just for education. And I hope what it is just a starting off point for you to take some of the things that you might get from this presentation today and go to your own financial person, whether that's your accountant or your own financial advisor, and run it by them to see what they think. So this is really just a starting off point. So let's talk about taking Social Security early. And the first thing that we have to understand is what do we mean by taking Social Security early? So what we're talking about is taking Social Security before your full retirement age. Now, the rule changed to people born after 1960 are now have their full retirement age at 67. For people that were born before 1960, you can see here that there's this sliding scale starting from age 66 up to age 67. For the purposes of our discussion today, we're going to be using examples really for those born after 1960. The process works the same, just the numbers we'll be using will be for people that have full retirement age at the age of 67. So one of the things that a lot of people aren't aware of and question that I get is, what do they base your Social Security payment on? And the primary insurance amount, which is the PIA, and you'll see that shortened version a lot when you're looking at Social Security documents. They take the average of your best 35 years of earnings, and they do a calculation and come out with what your full retirement age benefit payment is going to be. So different implications for people that, for instance, stay-at-home moms that maybe don't have a number of years where they're qualifying for Social Security. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you will qualify for Social Security based on what your spouse's benefit will be. So if you retire early, so that 67 is that full retirement age. That's where you get your full retirement benefit. If you retire a year earlier than 67, you receive a benefit of 6.67% less. And that's for each year that you take earlier than 67 for the first 3 years earlier. So 67, 66, 65. And then it's 5% for each year after that to the age of 62 when you're first allowed to be collecting Social Security. So if we start to look at this and we say, okay, well, I'm going to take it a year earlier, that minus 6.67%. Now my benefit will be reduced by that amount. Now that's a permanent reduction. So that is going to be not only the reduction to that amount, but it's also that amount's going to be reduced, and also the cost of living allowances that come every year. You won't be seeing that either. So it's a big implication, especially considering that's going to be for the rest of your life. And when you start to see how these numbers stack up, now, if you retire you take your Social Security 2 years earlier, you're looking at 13.34% reduction in your benefit. And everyone's situation is going to be different, and everyone is going to look at whether or not they need this money in a different way. I just think it's really important that you are aware of how much you are going to be sacrificing for each one of these years. And it does start to stack up. So now we look at somebody that is looking at 3 years earlier. So, you now have a 20% reduction in your benefit. It's starting to become a pretty substantial number, especially when we keep bringing it back to the fact that this is for the duration of your life, and you lose the cost of living adjustments that go away with that. So now we go to year 4 previous. That's where that 5% starts to kick in. So the first 3 years, 6.67% each year for 3 years previous to your full retirement age. And then a year earlier than that, it would be an additional 5%. So minus 25%, to the point where we get to age 62. This is for someone that's born after 1960, whose full retirement age would be 67 years old. It's a 30% reduction in your benefit. So, if you had a $2,000 benefit that you would receive at age 67, now you're talking about a 30% reduction, essentially $7,200 a year, plus the cost of living allowance for the rest of your life in reduction of your benefits. It's just something to really consider as you're trying to plan for when you're going to be taking Social Security. And one of the things that I like to point out is if you're making this decision at the age of 62, it's too late. Because at this point, you can't pivot and make changes to your retirement planning, your investments, your savings in good enough time that you're going to be able to see any of the benefits from those changes that you'd make. And that's why, the people that I work with, generally, they're within 10 years of retirement. It gives you enough time, and you can always make changes. So I'm not saying that you can't make a change and you can't bring yourself to a point of financial wellness. Your options are more limited the closer you get to some of these big benchmark ages and decisions. So that's why I'm always telling people to just focus early, get things in place so that when this time comes, you're well ahead of it. You know exactly what you're going to be doing. There's no surprises. So here's the converse of this. If you wait until after your benefit, so after your full retirement age of 67, you actually get an increase of 8% per year up to age 70. So this is a pretty substantial increase. And so for those that have the funds available and they can do this, you can see a real substantial increase in your benefit. Also, for the rest of your life, with cost of living adjustments, it can really build up. So it almost functions in some ways as an annuity might for some people that look at that. So I've given some real, interesting reasons, I think, for why people should think hard about whether or not they're going to take this benefit early. You are sacrificing a certain amount of long-term funding that you might see from holding on. What are some of the reasons why I would want to delay, that I wouldn't delay? Health concerns is number one. If you have existing health concerns and you're worried that you are not your term of life might be shorter than maybe what the average, which the average in the United States right now is 84 years old, it may benefit you to take the benefit earlier. Some people may have historical precedent with their families, and they're looking at themselves and saying, "Hey, people in my family, they don't really last past their 70s. It may be worthwhile for me to take this benefit earlier." It's certainly a consideration that you might have. And then the other consideration, I think, which is probably the bigger consideration, is cash flow concerns. Some people, and everybody has a different situation. Some people have put away, stockpiled a lot of funding for their retirement. Others don't have that same abundance, and so you may want to take this earlier just to supplement. If maybe you've lost your job later in your career and you weren't as prepared as you thought you might be, you may be in need of this cash flow. And anything that works for you is okay. Hopefully you've planned for this, and hopefully you've even planned for some of those emergencies so that you've been able to put this together and it wasn't a shock. but there are certainly situations where people are going to find that they really need to see this cash, and that's what that benefit is there for, and you should access it, and it should work for you. So those are a couple of those things. There's a couple of other things that I think people need to be aware of. Survivor benefits. If one of the spouse dies, there could be real ramifications for the spouse that's left over. So a widow or widower can receive Social Security benefits at the age of 60 if their spouse dies. Or in the event, if it can be younger than that, if they are caring for the deceased child that is under 16 years old, or that person is deceased, they would be able to get those benefits earlier. If the widow or widower claims those benefits, though, before their full retirement age, and so for our example, it's age 67 for the widow or widower, their benefits would also be reduced, and that comes. It works similarly to what we were talking about for your own Social Security benefit. That full retirement age is always a real number, and so if you start to take that benefit earlier, you will see a reduction. There's also another caveat: if the deceased person had started taking their benefit earlier, they will find that their benefit would have been decreased because they took it earlier, and therefore the deceased, the widow or widower, would also have a decreased benefit because that benefit is based on the person who had died. It's based on what their benefit is. So that's also something to take into consideration when you start thinking about taking these things a bit earlier. There are some knock-on effects that will affect other people in your family. So something else that I think that you might want to consider if you are thinking about taking this earlier, and one of the things I've run into with a client in the past is that they were considering taking Social Security benefits, and in their mind, they thought it would help. They planned on working into their 60s, and they thought it would help supplement their income as they worked into their 60s. And what they weren't aware of is this Social Security earnings test. And essentially what that means is that if you earn over $18,960, this is for 2021, the IRS is going to take $1 for every $2 that you make from your benefit. Now, understand that if you've taken your benefit early at 62, you already have a reduced benefit. And then on top of that, if you start to make money over and above that 18,960 number, you're going to now have an even further reduced benefit while you're making that increased income. So, if your thought process was, hey, I'm going to take this early, supplement my income, work until I'm 67, 70 years old, this is something else that you're going to want to consider. A little bit of a different thing is that in the year of full retirement age, and in our example, 67, you can make up to $50,250 in that year, and they actually only base that up until 1 month before you actually turn 67. So they don't look at it as the full year of earnings. It's literally what you made in that year. Just another consideration. So I think these things are really important for you to just to really understand that making this Social Security decision is bigger than just saying, hey, I'm going to flick a switch at 62 or 65 or 67. It should really be planned out. It should be part of a broader strategy. For instance, do you have the retirement funds in place that maybe you could use instead of claiming Social Security that will allow you to move this further along, closer to full retirement age? You might also want to consider what are the tax buckets that those retirement funds are in, and so what is the beneficial means of, and which tax buckets should you be drawing from in that interim time? So just a few things that I think you might want to consider. Hopefully, this is something that's helpful for you. Retirement is a really broad category with a lot of moving parts to it. Social Security is just one of those moving parts. So ultimately, if you're feeling like you need a little bit of help or assistance, feel free to reach out to us. We offer a complimentary introductory conversation to talk about financial problems or questions people might have, especially as it relates to their retirement. Feel free to contact us at luminaryfinancialadvisors.com. slash get in touch. And I'm happy to talk to you and work through whether or not we're a potential fit to work together. But more importantly, let's get a plan of action for you. Even if if you're working with us or not, I don't care. I just want you to have a good, fulfilled financial life. So uh, I'm really thankful that you joined me here today. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm just looking in the comments. I don't see any questions at the moment, but feel free to reach out. You can message me. You can comment. You can comment in the post that's going to follow this. And if you have further questions, like I said, please feel free to reach out. And hopefully you'll join me next week for another financial topic. Thank you.